Well, it looks like the Egyptian news coming down has changed the markets for basically took a 180-degree reversal. Markets are going up today, and then all of a sudden they changed direction. Basically talking about the equities, but oil went up because of turmoil in Egypt. So, I don't know how this is all going to come to a head, but actually, remember I was stating on this last video before that about the oil being the plan, basically turmoil in the Middle East being a plan to raise the price of oil. Lindsey Williams is probably on the money with that big time. That all fits. The domestic production of oil has gone up drastically in the United States. We got plenty of oil. You don't really need it to get the oil from the OPEC nations anymore. Just cut them off. Let the turmoil rule. Basically, that's the policy. It seems to be that way anyway. I think that's pretty accurate. Now, I said there's like a real rough, I'm going to say, commodities, when they go in a bull run, a very hard bull run, they do tend to run together. And this is another reason you want to keep your silver because, it's not like I can run a graph and say, here's oil, here's silver, here's gold, they're all kind of running together. I don't do that exactly. Actually, it's gold and oil they're the ones that run together a little tighter than oil and silver. But, like I said, I want to make that one thing out there that when you have oil going a very, very hard bull run, that's when silver tends to actually run with it a lot better. The correlation gets a lot stronger. Normal times, it really isn't there. It really isn't there. It's only when oil's in a very hard bull run. Now, it looks like, it was pretty interesting today because oil got up over 99.50 on the West Texas. That's pretty powerful, but that's a pretty powerful jump because there's a hell of a lot of resistance at the 100 mark. If something happens in the Middle East and Egypt and oil closes over $100, that could be something that can also help gold out a little bit because gold is like the fear metal. It's not a speculation metal. It's partly a metal that is used when people are scared of all the other markets. And it seems like tensions in the Middle East are scaring the equities right now. So, everything could be a little more, I don't want to say everything is a complete conspiracy, but in some ways it could be because, being that the markets have been pumped up to they're still way up there right now. The equities are still way up there. If there's actually a downturn in the markets, maybe there could be this major flare-up in the Middle East. And that's what causes it. And then, the analysts for the major media will tell you, well, it's because of the Middle East tensions. But really, the markets are just being held up by Fed government policies. And maybe they could be backing off the gas and putting their money someplace else. You wouldn't really know that, would you? Because you don't know exactly what the federal government policies are, do we? We don't know, because it's a pretty secretive organization. But if there's a political turmoil in the Middle East, and that runs as a cover for why the markets go down, that may be the way the scenario is going to play out. I have a tendency to think that. Now, another thing that's bullish for the gold and silver is this: the Fed and China are basically pursuing the same policy. The Fed also. This is another thing. Remember they talked about just like a week ago or so, whatever they talked about possibly backing off the gas on the QE, go doing the taper, and all the markets tank, and that was predicated upon the economy looking better. Well, it looks like the economy is going to be a lot worse, and especially also in China. China's having the same problems. So actually, China is going to have to embark on a more QE and credit expansion. You see, they tried to tighten. See, in China, they tried to tighten up credit with raising interest rates, and all of a sudden they had a liquidity crunch. Supposedly, there was rumors where there were some banks in China where they had major lines outside and riots and stuff because people were trying to get their money out. So if they try to tighten up too much in the United States and the interest rates go up, they're going to kill the real estate market, which is over 50% of the economy in the United States. It is that much. When you take real estate, if they kill the real estate market, construction, real estate, and all the ancillary industries all around it is about 50% of the U.S. economy. So if interest rates go up, they just kill that. Now, there's more stuff coming out this week on Friday with the jobs report and stuff. That's going to actually see right now that things will settle down because of July 4th weekend coming up. But the jobs report's actually going to say one thing or another what's going to come out, as far as which way the metals are going to go. But I think the real important thing to watch is, Lindsey Williams talked about this garbage for freaking years now, but I think he's basically correct that the Middle East tensions are going to be cooking up more and more. And you've seen just today with the riots they had in Egypt that things are making oil rise. And I think that's the game plan. And I'm going to tell you, gold and silver will rise together with oil if the tensions in the Middle East go up high enough. They will. And you're going to need that protective money because actually all commodities kind of run together. It's if oil goes up, food's going to go up. The production cost of mines go up. Everything kind of goes up. They don't follow it like daily in a chart. You just get at your little slide ruler and say, but it's kind of a general rule because it's a major portion of the mining operating cost is fuel expense. If we can actually have diesel fuel for $1 a gallon, well, they can keep the cost of mining of silver way down too and keep the price down and still make money and keep their doors open. That's the way it works. And that's the way it works even with agriculture, with food, because growing food is an energy-intensive business, and even the petroleum industry supplies goes into a lot of the fertilizer too. So, and pesticides and all that other stuff. So, they will all run together because I've been seeing, because I understand what some people are saying about the bubble was over in 2011 because some people are saying there's a 30-year commodity cycle, and the last bubble was the beginning of 1980, so 30 years later, 2011, that's right about 30 years. But that 30-year rule is not really perfect. That's the whole deal. And that's what I really have to say. You got to look at other things going on. That 30-year rule is definitely not perfect because if you can go back 30 years, it hasn't been hitting like every 30 years as a commodity bubble. It's a rough rule. So I think we're going to see the real spike in the commodities when things get really, really heated up in the Middle East. That's when we're going to see the major spike. Anybody's guess when that's going to happen. But it looks like, the writing's on the wall because, like I stated in my other video, the policy in the Middle East with Mohammed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood and all this type of stuff, it's not about, supporting the rebels or anything like that, or it's just about creating problems and division and internal strife. And the reason they want to do that is they want to keep all the countries in the Middle East very weak. And it's also good for the oil prices of the domestic crude production that's coming on very strong in the United States. And believe me, this does have something to do with silver because as these things all unfold, you're going to see all the commodities go up. What's going to make silver go way the hell up? Probably when the middle class gets brave again, and also the investors get brave again, and they all just pour into it. Because a lot of it is a psychological sales pitch. There's going to be another bubble up. I'd assume the next time they have, I don't know for sure, but I think, the next fib point after 50 is 75. So I'm a little leery of it going straight to 100 myself, to tell you the truth. But that could be the case. But, the word of the day, like I've always been saying, is if you're going to sell, you sell in increments, and you don't sell until you get a nice, good, profit hundreds of percent over what you paid for. So that's the word of the day. But looks like the plan that Lindsey Williams talked about. Now, I don't want to talk maybe so much about him, but it looks like the word he got from this guy that it seems like it's unfolding. And, it's one aspect of what the actual, you want to call them, the elite, quote unquote, in the world are doing. But that does make a lot of sense from the oil elite. You would want oil to go way to hell up once you got your goods in line and you don't need the other guy. And your goods are going to be worth that much more money, because the other guy's going to be out of business because of all internal strife or wars or whatever. So that's what they're trying to push in the Middle East. And the mining costs, the day-to-day mining cost on gold and silver and copper and everything else, and food, which is, producing agriculture and making pesticides, is very dependent upon the price of crude oil. I mean, they don't jump up, I don't want to put it so simple like crude oil went up $5 a barrel, all of a sudden, the price of silver is going to jump up this much. They could go in opposite directions, but if you see crude oil go up to $150 to $200 a barrel, I'll guarantee you your food prices are going to be way the hell up there. Gold is going to double and silver is going to more than double. That I know. So it looks like the game in the Middle East that the Western oil elite want to unfold is happening. It's not like, some people are going to make the mistake. They're going to say the Muslim Brotherhood are losing control. That ain't what they're freaking really trying to do. The elite in this, the oil elite are not trying to just push the Muslim Brotherhood. They are trying to just create as much internal strife, division, civil wars, and let the Middle East go up in flames because they don't need, America's not going to need their oil anymore. And their oil is just going to be more supply on the market. So that's just going to make U.S. production, which will be exported to the world in the future, worth that much more. So do expect all the commodities to fly up after this all happens, and silver is going to be amongst it big time.